So this had been shot down previously by the title board, which, interestingly enough, the title board is made up of some of the most liberal politicians in the state. It's got someone from the Secretary of State's office, someone from the Attorney General's office, and even they said that, no, you cannot try to repeal TABOR all at once because we have a single subject rule in Colorado, meaning if you're going to put something on the ballot, it has to be just having to do with one subject. And because TABOR has a lot of different things kind of wrapped into it, you can't do it all at once. But then, the liberal activist judges on the Colorado Supreme Court said, yeah, go ahead. That's fine. You can put that on the ballot.
What was the reasoning behind that? Do you know?
So they're saying the single subject rule was passed after the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. It was passed in 1994, and it's sort of as a direct response to TABOR by the Democrats. So they're saying that because TABOR existed before the single subject rule, it's not really fair, and that it's too broad to try to repeal it piece by piece. So they're going to allow them to put it on the ballot as one.
In other words, they put their personal bias into this is what they did.
Yeah, I mean, there's 6 out of 7 of the judges on the Supreme Court are appointed by Democrats. So it's just pure judicial activism, and it's really disappointing.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what this boils down to. They are doing what they want to do, not really what the letter of the law states. And again, folks, these elections have consequences. For those of you out there listening, even when it comes to these judges, these elections have consequences. That's why it's very important with what you do and who you vote for and what the outcome is, because it affects us as a state greatly.
It sure does, yeah. And the courts have been trying to tear down TABOR piece by piece over the last 20 or so years. So we're ready for this fight. We've seen it coming because liberal activists have been talking about this for a long time. But the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights is extremely popular. Coloradans really like the idea of being able to have a say in the size of government and being able to vote on tax increases. So, in fact, there's 71% of Coloradans, if you just tell them the definition of TABOR, approve of it, whereas only 28% disapprove. So we're in a strong spot, but we definitely have to make sure that voters understand what's at stake here.
TABOR is the last thing to keep us from actually becoming California. That and the fact that we don't have a coastline would be about the only difference.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
No, well said. And I'm going to say something here that everybody in the room, including Lindsey, may not like. But I had a listener email me yesterday about a particular topic, and they wanted to know why we hadn't had anybody on when it comes to the recall polis end of things. And first of all, nobody's contacted us to really be on in that regard, and we're working on potentially getting somebody on to talk about that. But I'm just going to say right up front, while I wish wholeheartedly we could do something about recalling Governor Polis, the reality is this, Lindsey, Dan, Cam, first of all, I think for the amount of time, effort, and energy that it takes to do something along those lines, I would rather see that energy spent on what we just got done talking about, Lindsey, and that would be keeping TABOR intact, educating the public, doing the things necessary. My fear with a recall with Polis, and I'll just say it up front, is this. If we even successfully get that measure accomplished to where he's even recalled and there's a second vote, the chances of actually beating him at the polls a second time are going to be slim to none. And if he wins a re-election off of a campaign, off of a recall campaign like that, he's here for another 7 years. He's not going to go away.
Well, kind of like a Star Wars thing, it will become more powerful than you could ever imagine.
I just that is my biggest fear with a recall of the governor. Everybody out there listening is probably upset with me for saying that. They're mad. But Lindsey, I would rather see the time, energy, effort, money, and so on that is going into that go into a measure like you just mentioned.
Yeah, we have so much on the line coming up. In 2019, we have Proposition CC, which you mentioned, and in 2020, a potential full TABOR recall. Also, probably a national popular vote issue on the ballot, and then a really important U.S. Senate race. So I agree with you. We have limited energy, each of us, and we really, I think, should be putting it into some of those really big fights.
Well, and again, I know there's people out there that probably would not like me saying what I just said, because there's a lot of people out there definitely pushing for the recall. And I even said this to a listener that asked me about it yesterday. If a petition was in front of me, would I sign it? Absolutely, I would. But I just wish we could all get together and drive some of these other things in the way that we're driving some of these recall efforts. Not that recall efforts don't work. I'm pleased. Nobody listening to me think that for a second that they don't work. But trying to recall a sitting governor, especially in a now blue state, I think is like trying to climb Mount Everest without an oxygen tank. It's near impossible to do. And I would rather see us focus on things that I think we could accomplish and educate people on what's going on in the state, thereby changing the outcome of future elections and then doing our best to get our House and Senate flip-flopped, which would then control the power of the governor. To me, that's a better response than trying to recall him.
Yeah, you know what we've seen that's really great? I think this past legislative session and really since the last election, I've seen a lot more Republicans being active, being energized, and staying active even past the legislative session, and I think that's a really good sign.
Well said. Well said. I'll leave it with that. Lindsey, thank you very much. Whatever we do to help, let us know. We'll have you on as we continue through the summer here.
Thank you.
Lindsey Singer, Colorado Rising Action. Appreciate it.